By the way, I tried understanding Wimbledon, but I don't think any of us are huge on tennis, so I didn't think it really made sense to add it in. I know it's going on right now. I know it's kind of a big deal.
Are you talking about the players that are competing or like what?
Yeah, the tournament itself really, and like the standings and who's in, who's out. It's kind of hard for me to read. I don't get it.
I can help you if you need me to.
Well, let's check this out.
Yarno Sinner and Daniil Medvedev, for example, up the upper left. Sinner won the first set 7-6 with a 9-7 tiebreak. So you have to win each set by 2. It took them 9-7 in singles points before a +2 tie. I looked at it earlier. I believe Medvedev was up 6-5, and then Sinner won the next set to tie it at 6 so they went to the tiebreaker. Then in the set by 2, you got to get to 7 in the singles tiebreak to win. So in the first set, they were both tied at 7. So again, you have to win by 5th set 6-3 to eliminate the top seed Sinner.
Okay, thank you. That makes a lot more sense to me now, actually.
Welcome to the Circus Catch.
I'm always up for the challenge.
Are you kidding me? Guess who called that one?
I am dubbed the Houston player hater. I don't have time to believe.
You got butthurt.
What is he thinking? Is he the greatest of all time?
It is like magic.
For the first time in Circus Catch history, we are recording an episode in the month of July. And now I know why we haven't done it yet, because I am roasting like a pig in here. Welcome to the Circus Catch, ladies and gentlemen. I've got Mr. Jesse Larson joining me from a very, very cool Wisconsin today. Jesse, how are you doing, my friend?
Well, I'm cool by your standards, I guess I could say that, Jordan. It's about 80 degrees here. I'm in my sunroom chilling. Great day. I'm ready to talk some baseball for the first time in a while, though.
Me too. Yeah, I guess the weather is all subjective, but yeah, we've been hitting the 110s here pretty consistently. So, frankly, I'm a little sick of it. We get down, like I was telling you, to about 102, 103 is the high starting next week. So I'm pretty excited for that cool off, if you will. All right. Well, before we get into baseball, I do want to take a second to talk about what's been going on in the southern part of the United States right now, just real quick. As you guys know, not all 4 of us are on the show every single week. We have rotating schedules. In fact, the reason Austin's not on this week is because there was some schedule conflict. The reason that Jackson's not on this week is because there has been some very severe weather with a hurricane that is now a tropical storm hitting the Texas area and affecting almost 3 million people in the Houston area. So if you guys can, please keep those people who are in that area, including Jackson and the Cochran family, his wife and his daughter, in your thoughts and prayers, and their dogs as well. They are without power. Almost, like I said, almost 3 million people in Texas are without power right now. It looks like it might even be a few weeks before they get that back on. I'll send a link, or I'll put a link in the description of the episode for you guys to be able to donate to the right cause, to make sure your money goes to the right place. We want to make sure that we're getting this to people who are going to utilize it, for people who actually need it. But please, if you can give, and if you can't, just keep these people in your thoughts and prayers, including our own Jackson Cochran. All right, Jesse. Well, like you said, we do need to talk baseball. We haven't talked baseball on the show in so long. We've been so focused on the NBA Finals, on the Stanley Cup Finals, all of the playoffs that had to go on with that. Right before that, March Madness. So baseball kind of went by the wayside a little bit. But while it did, there's one team that actually took the league by storm that I don't think many people are talking about, that they need to talk about, and that would be the Philadelphia Phillies. They are shocking the baseball world right now, and I don't think people thought they were a bad team. I had them as a fringe playoff team. They're dominating their division. They're 7.5 games up on the Atlanta Braves, a team that a lot of people thought was going to win the World Series. Still can. Still a very talented team. They have a 3.5 game lead in the National League over the Dodgers, the team that went out and spent $700 million on one player. They have a lead over them. They have the best record in baseball as of today, a 1-game lead ahead of the Baltimore Orioles, who By the way, that was my American League pick, so congratulations to me for being super smart. The Phillies, just a little humble brag there. The Phillies also have the ability to boast the most All-Stars in MLB. The Dodgers taking the number 2 spot with 6. Jesse, the Phillies have 7 players in the All-Star game, 4 of them being pitchers, 2 from the bullpen and 2 starters.
Look at just the body of work that they produce right now. And you mentioned that pitching staff. I mean, the best ERA in baseball. They've got 8 shutouts as a team this year. 113 WHIP. You know, this team is just kind of flying under the radar, really controlling their own destiny, if you will. It's not like they're dominating the East or anything. They're only 15-10 against their own division. They're 14-9 against the Central. They're not like dominating in terms of like record-wise. They're just methodically being good at every single statistic, not dominating in any one category other than, you know, having the 7 All-Stars. But that's just, to me, that is kind of what I'm talking about. It's a cohesive unit. This pitching staff is the best in baseball, and that's why they've got 4 pitchers going to the All-Star game next week. Is it sustainable? Probably not. Do I still think they're going to be probably one of the top 3 teams in the National League by the end of the year? Absolutely. They're going to contend with Los Angeles and Atlanta for the top seed in the National League for sure. I don't think it's quite over because we still have the trade deadline, and we all know baseball's trade deadline. We always see, you know, some heavy hitting deals get done. So I don't think it's the end of the world for the Braves or the Dodgers, even the Brewers. I'm excited to say, you know, tops in the Central right now. They're definitely not on the level of Philadelphia right now, but you know, I think it'll start to even out for the most part for Philadelphia. I don't think they're gonna, you know, keep the pace that they have. But like I said, they're also not dominated in any one category. They're just good, very good across the board in just about everything. So, you know, usually that is kind of your precipice for getting to be the best team, is you're good at everything and not super great at one in particular thing. And their team pitching stats are unreal. So they're just kind of very, very good at all of that. I mean, I don't think it's sustainable. Long story short, I don't think it's sustainable, but I still think they're going to be one of the best teams in the National League come playoff time.
Yeah, and this is definitely a team that can make some noise in the playoffs, but I don't think it's sustainable just simply for the reason that even though they have the best record in the National League right now, I don't think they are the best team. Records can be misrepresentations of how good a team is, and I'm not saying they're not good. Obviously, you don't get 7 All-Stars to an All-Star game without being a great team. Unfortunately, I have to reference exactly 10 years ago, another team that had 7 All-Stars in the All-Star game made the playoffs as a 5 seed, which at that point, 5 was the lowest seed you could make. That was the 2014 Oakland Athletics. 7 All-Stars, traded one of their top players to get pitching help because that was their one area of weakness. I think it's kind of flipped with this team. The pitching is the strength of the team. But, you know, you still got a few months left. The dog days of summer can catch up to any team, and they do consistently. We see that a lot. I do think at this point the Dodgers are a better team. I would even venture to say at this point that the Braves are a better team. I think that if you had a 7-game series or maybe possibly a 5-game series, San Diego has a shot against them. Milwaukee has a shot against them. And like you said, the big thing is their division record. You could even match up a team like the Mets against them, and I'm not sure that Philadelphia would take that one confidently. So I don't think that it is 100% sustainable just because of that. But I don't want to do them any disservice. Jackson is loving this right now, I'm sure, that I'm kind of crapping on Philadelphia's parade. But I don't believe at this point that Philadelphia if the season were to end right now and playoffs started right now, that Philadelphia would be the team to represent the National League in the World Series. And now, boys and girls, a man who needs no introduction other than the four main hosts. Nobody else has been on the podcast more than he has. Ladies and gentlemen, the return of Richard Tucker. Richard, welcome back to the Circus Catch.
It's great to be back, man. I'm happy to see you, man, and can't wait to get started.
First things first, I do want to apologize for the stray that you caught a couple weeks ago. I mean, get better at fantasy football, but at the same time, it was a little out of line. I do apologize.
Hey, you know what? I deserved it, rightfully so. I do like to pick my guys by their names sometimes, so you know what? I deserved it.
It's good to see you, man. What have you been up to since we last talked?
Well, I actually finished my bachelor's degree from Sacramento State, and then I applied to be a PE teacher at the middle school that I actually graduated from. And then I was offered a position to coach running backs at my high school, my former high school, and I'm also the strength and conditioning coach now there too, as well.
Dude, that's awesome, and I knew that's the path you were headed. I mean, obviously by the degree that you got as well. And there's going to be many more stops along the way, but this is an awesome stop. I would love nothing more than to see you succeed as a coach and as a teacher, and that's obviously a great skill set that you have. You are not the only one in your family that got a degree this year, though.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not. My wife actually finished her Juris Doctorate program, and she's taking the bar in a few weeks.
Wow.
And she's been studying away at that. She's actually probably studying right now some multiple choice questions. And then yeah, man, she just finished. She actually did a hybrid program where she got the option of, instead of finishing in 4 years, she can take additional classes while being a mom, to 2 kids and working full time. And she did all that and finished in 3 years. And so definitely proud of her for sure.
You guys are such an inspiration. That's awesome. Let's talk about this NBA free agency that has everybody a buzz. And to be honest with you, Richard, I don't know why. It really hasn't been too crazy of a free agency, but it's all I see anybody talking about. The biggest name to go off the board was Paul George. And I think if it was 5 years ago, I would have been bursting at the seams hearing about this news, but I don't know. He's going to be the third option in Philly, in my opinion. You know, you can make the argument for Tyrese Maxey, but what are your thoughts on the move?
Paul George doing that, I know there's been some talk about him being upset with the Clippers organization, not offering him the same deal at first as Kawhi Leonard, and then he wanted a no trade clause as well, which they didn't give him that. So then he got upset, went to Philly, and it's, like you said, 5 years ago, I might have been like, ooh, like this is gonna be tough, in the East. But then it's like you said, Maxey's a great player, Embiid, he's a great player. But then at the same time, like, there's only one basketball, and Paul George isn't really a stand and shoot kind of guy, like he does like having the ball in his hands too. And Maxey's a downhill type player, where he's getting to the basket and doing his thing. And I don't know, it's gonna be weird for sure.
I think the next biggest move. And again, not really sure about the hype on this one. This man scored 0 points in last year's play-in tournament, and that would be Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson, the other Splash Bro, the Luigi to Steph Curry's Mario, going to the Dallas Mavericks. I don't know if the move makes sense for Dallas, first of all, and I'm not really sure it makes a ton of sense for the Warriors either to part ways with him. I think they could have retained him for less than a max. I don't know if that was really the reason that he wanted to go, is because he wasn't getting that money. And maybe he thinks he's worth more than he actually is at this point in his career.
Out of all the free agency, I actually disagree. I think Klay Thompson going to Dallas is one of the biggest moves that a team could have made, because he can be a knockdown 3-point shooter. He's not going to be worried about, being the same Klay Thompson that he was in Golden State. Now this is a new era for him. He's going to go in there, open-minded. He's got Kyrie to pass him the ball to take some of that weight off, which he had Curry, but at the same time, some of that pressure, like, being that splash, bro, like might have gotten to him. And with Luka taking some of that pressure off too, I mean, you put Klay Thompson in the corner. I mean, we could see, the Ray Allen type shooting where, in Boston and even in Miami, where Ray Allen would find that corner, they would find him wide open and knock down 3-point shooter, And so I definitely think it's a good move for him and for Dallas, because as we've seen in the playoffs, when they got to the end, it was really up to Kyrie and Luka to figure it out, and it didn't work out.
I guess my biggest point of contention with this and why I disagree with you so hard on this is I don't feel like Klay Thompson has as much left in the tank as you do. I think we've seen a steady decline, and it sucks that he missed about 2 years with injuries. Made a great comeback. They ended up winning a finals in 22. But the Warriors have been steadily declining since, and I think no one more so than Klay Thompson embodied that. So I think to try to get Klay to be even a fraction of the player he was in Golden State is going to be a taller task for Dallas than a lot of people think.
Hey, we won't talk about my Miami Heat this year, okay? Because like I said, the only heat wave happening this summer is in California. I'm telling you right now, man.
Why? No, let's talk about him. Why are you so down on the Heat?
We missed out on DeMar DeRozan. How do we not get that guy? And he ends up in Sacramento. Of all places, listen, I'm a California person. I root for the Kings, but we are the Miami Heat, and we can't land DeMar DeRozan in Miami. Listen, Pat Riley's done his thing for many, many years, so it's hard to question his his methodical thinking and process, but I think we missed out on that for sure.
DeMar DeRozan going to Sacramento. Does this clearly make Sacramento the best team in California?
Yes.
I would say so as well.
Yeah, they clearly the best team in California. I mean, we can look at the Clippers. Problem is they re-signed James Harden, I believe. And then they lost, like we were talking about earlier, they lost Paul George. And I don't really see them being a threat. Golden State still, like, they're in a rebuilding phase. The Lakers, they're one of those teams. They got in the playoffs, and you never know what you're going to get with them now.
Yeah.
I feel like they're very up and down, and it's one of those things that, I'm not really sold on them. Sacramento, man, with Fox and now DeRozan, and then
Domantas Sabonis.
Yes, dude, that guy is key to their team, man. If he can just, I don't want to say be a little bit more physical, because he is pretty physical as a player, and he might, get hit with some techs and things, but I do think like guys like Draymond Green get under his skin a little bit. And I think he's just gotta, have, man up a little bit, man.
You could say the other way around too. He gets under Draymond's skin a little bit too. So
yeah, no, he definitely does.
I do also real quick want to talk about a team that is full of guys from Villanova. Just got Mikal Bridges in the offseason. How do you feel about the New York Knicks now?
If there's a team that could have gave Boston a run for their money in the East, if healthy, I mean, look, dude, Julius Randle, you got that guy on your team who is a killer. And then you got Jalen Brunson. And then you got DiVincenzo, who's a knockdown shooter. Like, dude, the New York Knicks are scary. They're a scary team in the East. The problem is, is Julius Randle, he's got to stay healthy. And then their defense, I'm not really sold on their defense.
That's completely right on with the point I was going to make, because Hartenstein leaving and Mikal Bridges coming in. Yeah, you got this whole Villanova aesthetic, but holy cow, does that make their lineup small? Yeah, the defense is a huge concern for me. Although I will say, had Julius Randle been healthy, I think they beat Indiana, and to your point, I think they do give Boston a run for their money. Indiana, I think, is a weaker team than New York right now. And we all saw that Eastern Conference Finals. Yes, it ended in a sweep, but that should have been 3-1 in Indiana's favor. So New York could have given them a run for their money. It's interesting to look back and kind of see coulda, woulda, shoulda. No discredit to Boston. They dominated all the way through and won a championship. But yeah, I think New York is going to be scary next year as long as they figure it out on defense. That small lineup is the big thing concerning me.
I'm a Miami Heat fan, and we play tough defense, tough basketball in general. And again, if healthy, I think we give Boston a run for their money. And Jimmy being out, it's tough when that's the heart of your team, And so it sucks, because I do think that we would have beat Dallas, but can't, coulda, woulda, shoulda, It's, man.
Yeah, and talk about guys throwing their bodies around. Like, that's all Miami does when I watch them play.
Yeah.
They're so athletic and physical, and on any given night can be anybody. I'm not going to go as far as to say that you guys would have beat Dallas if you were fully healthy. I don't know about all that, but I'm not discounting it, but Dallas beat a bunch of freaking tough teams on their way to the final, on their way to the finals.
Yeah, and they caught me off guard. I didn't expect Dallas to do what they did.
I did have them beating OKC, but I didn't think they were going to sniff a series victory against Minnesota.
Yeah,
that was a collapse on Minnesota's part.
100%. I hate to call guys out, but I don't think you're gonna win a championship with Karl Anthony Towns. I don't. Listen, a great basketball player. I think he's a talent. What is he? 7 feet tall, can shoot the ball, can put the ball on the floor. The problem is, I think he's too soft. I think. Okay. It's one of those things like when Karl Anthony Towns was sitting on the bench when his team was getting beat. It's one of, and he's over there just watching. It's just like, what are you doing, man? Like you're supposed to be the star athlete. Like in those situations, God rest his soul, Kobe Bryant would have never been on the bench. Like he would have never been on the bench. Michael Jordan would have never been on the bench. LeBron, he ain't putting him on the bench with that spare time left, and you got the game on the line. Like those games, a few point swings, and it's a whole different series. And I do think like a guy like Karl Anthony Towns. Jimmy Butler called him out. Okay, that's why I love Jimmy. He'll call you out on your stuff, and I do think Karl Anthony Towns, similar to Andrew Wiggins, very soft-minded basketball players.
I love it when you call people out. You're very unafraid in that way. But I also think if you were face to face with him, you would still call him soft.
Oh, I would. I would say he's charming. He is charming, soft, toilet paper, whatever you want to call it. He is that type of soft. Listen. The guy I would call him soft to his face. And if there was a TV show where like I could just call guys out that are soft, oh dude, I would love it. I would purposely try to go on that show and I would call out every single one of those guys that are soft. And listen, it comes with some I love the tough basketball players, which is why Dwayne Wade's my favorite player. He will come at you. I see him get elbowed in the face, bleeding, and he drops 40 on the Knicks. Those are the players that I'm like, dude, I live for that. Like I love watching those guys go at it, and it's part of basketball, man.
This is pure gold. We have to make a second podcast where we just do that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I love the shirt, by the way.
I was wondering if you had noticed that. Yeah, this was a birthday gift. Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
So I got this in the mail yesterday. I don't know if you ever met Chase. I think he's only been on the show once. The Dolphins fan that I interviewed.
Oh yeah.
really early on this season. Yeah, he got me this for my birthday. So it's actually a jersey.
I see that.
And then he even got my name on it back there.
Nice, dude.
We
Yeah.
we may need to start doing some merchandise at some point, because this is one of one right now. But I think if the guys start with some jerseys, I can order them for you guys. I know where he got them from. Then maybe possibly in season 3 do some merchandising. I mean, I think it's awesome.
I would kill for that jersey, dude. That'd be awesome. Well, Jordan, I'm definitely interested in talking about something that's very passionate to me, and that would be Formula One. So the last couple weeks have been some pretty titanic matchups that we've seen in Formula One that we haven't really seen in the last couple of years. First, in Austria, I want to talk about the collision, the clash, whatever you want to call it, the insanity that was the collision between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Completely changed the outlook of the game or of the race. But it was the media firestorm that happened after the race that culminated in these two basically being vilified against each other, even though they're great friends off the track. We just saw it the other 2 days ago, Sunday afternoon after the race in Silverstone. They were arm in arm. They were buddies again. And everything I've seen in posts about Formula One by any media outlet has just been this is now a heated rivalry and they just hate each other. And it's completely not the case. Yes, it was a heated moment. They were battling for the win and it happened. Collisions happen. You know, these guys are racing for victories and they're trying to win championships and stuff. And Max, especially, going for his 4th straight. This is huge. And they came together in turn 3 and boom, that was it. Lando out of the race. Max with a 10-second penalty ended up in 5th. And George Russell came from 3rd to win it. But it is something that needs to be said. I know we both have degrees in sportscasting, and this is probably not the right thing to say, but why in sports media do we vilify moments like this so easily when it's completely unnecessary?
Being that I have a sportscasting degree, and being that you have a sportscasting degree, I think we already both know the answer to that one. It's all about the story. It's all about getting the story. Now, we also have something that we learned in school that we should have already known, that everybody should know, called journalistic integrity, where you can't blow a story so far out of proportion that it's just simply not true. But I get it. I watched some of those interviews and it looked like Lando Norris was super heated, super fired up, saying that Verstappen should be the one that has to say something for his accountability for that. But everything I've ever read and everything I've ever seen has pointed to the fact that these two indeed are friends off the track. And like you said, we saw it a couple days ago, that, you know, at the end of the day, they're friends, you know, and it happens all throughout sports. Let's take Draymond Green and LeBron James, for example. They battled against each other in 4 finals. They were heated in those finals. They're buddies, you know. Fantasy football. I want to beat your team as bad as I possibly can. And you and I are great friends. And I want to humiliate you. Yeah. And I'm sure you want to humiliate me.
Fair enough. That's a good point. Yeah. It's just crazy to look at because, you know, and this was another talking point I wanted to bring up with you. And we had talked in text about it. Lando Norris and this McLaren team, including his teammate Oscar Piastri, these guys have really become a resurgent program, and this team is back, if you will. Podiums in 8 straight and 9 of the 12 races this year. McLaren was at the back of the grid less than 4 years ago, man, but now they're here, and I think it's the pressure that in all of those podiums, the team only has the one victory, and that was in Miami. Back in May. It was beginning of May. So I think the pressure, even though this team is a resurgent team and they're finally competing for podiums and wins, We've seen it with Lando a few times this season, trying to be a little too aggressive to get that victory, to get, I don't know, some level of superiority against the likes of Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton that I don't think he really needs to do, because I think he would have won the race if he doesn't get so aggressive. Obviously, the collision itself was Max's fault, but there was a few moments in there where he tried to pass and he missed his mark or went wide or locked up and cost himself a chance at the pass to take the lead. And it just culminated in that. I think the frustration built. So I think that, to what you're talking about with how heated he was after the race, almost feel like a lot of it was his own doing, because if he had just been a little more patient, I don't think anything happens. And I think he walks away with a few second gap to the win.
Jesse, we just celebrated the 4th of July holiday. The holiday where America declared their independence from Great Britain 248 years ago. And every year, as a true American patriot, I light off as many fireworks as the state of California will let me, so not very many, and not very many good ones. But still, I sit at home and I celebrate with family, or I go out and I celebrate with friends. Sober, of course. Don't drink and drive. But we do celebrate our country, and we celebrate the spirit of America. And one thing that I love to celebrate about our country is the greatest sport of all time in American football. Very much opinion based, but I will fight anybody on that. I think it is the greatest sport in the world. And of course, I grew up in it, so I have a little bit of bias, but I digress. Jesse, I don't know if it's my ignorance about how good the rest of the world is and how much they've caught up to us in American football, or if I'm justified in the fact that I'm absolutely livid about this, but the USA lost a football game to the country of Japan. I know nobody thinks of Japan when they think of American football. Nobody, except for people in Japan. Or people that are keeping up with worldwide football. I certainly don't. So, do I have a right to be mad about this? Can I yell at these people who play for Team USA? Can I substitute myself in to play in one of these games?
Well, I hate to break it to you, Jordan, but I think if you or I stepped on that field, we'd probably lose even worse.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I digress. I see your point, right? I look at it from the perspective of, like I just mentioned, these FBS schools are not allowing our top echelon program players to go and play in this international tournament for fear of, number one, injury. I think the hard part, though, for me is, and the reason I allow myself to be a little heated, is not only did they lose to Japan, but they lost the bronze medal game to Austria. And so out of 8 teams, the U.S. got 4th in American football. That should not be the case. It should be Canada and the U.S. going at it for the gold every single time the U21 tournament or the U20 tournament happens. And it's not been the case. It's been Canada dominating for the past several years, realistically, with the exception of one. Canada has the most titles. So, we have a right to be peeved about it because it's our sport,
Well, Jesse, thank you for joining me on this somewhat hot in Wisconsin, very hot here Tuesday, and I appreciate you every time you come on. Thank you for your insight and for your acumen, your opinions, and all that stuff as well.
Glad to be here, Jordan. I'll let you go, get in the AC, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, hey, send me your jersey size so we can get the guys all one of these. We all need to be matching.
Yes, Circus Catch jerseys for the win, man. I definitely will do that for you.
All right, and to the folks at home, let me know if you guys want to start getting merch like this, possibly for next season. I'll do it. I need to get enough people signed up, but make sure you let me know. I'm more than happy to get it going Because right now, this is one of one. We can get more. It's possible. And I want to see the Circus Catch represented nationwide. Possibly worldwide. Nationwide. Let's start a little more
Start small,
realistic.
Jordan.
Yeah.
Start small.
All right, guys. Well, from out in Wisconsin down here to California, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week. Sayonara. Keep it again. Keep the last thing again.